Are we just smaller versions of a bigger home? Are you the rivers in your veins? Am I the flakes that become snow? And you might believe that everything is broken. Fragments of sentences we haven't spoken. And maybe are we just jagged lines across a barren sea? Are the shapes inside a sunday the same as the arms of trees? And saying we're shell of what we used to be. Maybe we're smaller. Are we just smaller? And I get lost in finding comfort this time. Fractals all around us, in hopes that I found us. There's beauty in these broken times. Now I know there's nothing to be feared. Oh, can exist. Are we just clouds up in the northern hemisphere, taking up dreams that I've leapt for, that you've always feared? Moving like the world force spinning round and round, looking for a safe and sound. And I get lost in finding comfort this time. Fractals all around in hopes that I have found us. There's beauty in these broken designs. Now I know there's nothing to be feared. I know if the smiles get long, I'll still see you alone. Even though this is all known, I'll keep carrying a little. These lines of time. Are we just smaller versions of a bigger home? Are you the rivers in your veins? Am I the flakes that become snow? And you might believe that everything is broken. Fragments of sentences we haven't spoken. But maybe are we just jagged lines across a barren sea? Are the shapes inside a sunday the same as the arms of trees? And saying we're shell of what we used to be. Maybe we're smaller. Are we just smaller? And I get lost in finding comfort this time. Fractals all around us, in hopes that I have found us. There's beauty in these broken designs. Now I know there is nothing to be feared. Oh, Are we just searching for a little higher? Are the lines between us just as paths to a vacant past? And you still make me think of what we used to be. Maybe we're smaller. Are we just